Hi there, it's Lee. Well, this video is about, as the title says, soul retrieval and how to break curses and bring blessings into your life. First of all, it's important to realize, and I don't know how to start the video, I'll let it get into its flow if you'll pardon me. It's important to realize that pretty much all of the enlightening ability that we have, it's our default nature, but it's up to us, down to each person, to make the right choices and to bring the right things into their heart. So it really comes down to, in the very simplest terms, about balancing yourself out and understanding why things are the way they are. And when we understand that, we can understand ourselves better. Or we can do our best to understand ourselves, and we can call it human nature, although it goes beyond humanity, and then understand why the external world is. So we are coming from the same source, we are coming from this wonderful thing. You can call it God, you can call it perfect being, supreme being, source of sources, whatever name that you choose that you're comfortable with. It doesn't really matter. Nobody has to be more right than another person. So we are all, each and every single one of us, a spark, a divine spark. And within us is the potentials of everything. And we're here on this earth having one such journey out of countless many. And we have eternity to do all of this. I can always like to say it again. So what I'm just trying to illustrate briefly in the picture, and I didn't want to complicate things too much, but it's just the world soul, but it's also the individual soul. This is you, this is me, this is Buddha, this is Christ mind, whatever we want to call it, okay? And I'll just do the little chakras quickly. I'm showing the being of light close to the sun, source of light, just for, simplicity purposes. And then here I'm doing a being that's in the shadow, or in confusion, different stuff like that, and belonging to the dark underworld, or the counter kingdom. But really, it's all innate things that we're trying to come to grips with to understand the balance. So kind of like that. And here are the connecting lines of light, planet to planet, all attached to the sources of light, all back to the Godhead, or call it what we will. Now, a lot of people have read and done their own studies on different things. Some of you have read a lot of philosophies in different religions. Some of you maybe have not. It's important to read lots of things maybe, but even if we have books or no books, it's the search inside and the search outside. The internal and the external reflect each other, right? We know this. It's a mirrored nature. So when we are looking to find enlightenment, or our peace of mind, and our next level, people talk about 4D, 5D. Who knows how many Ds there are? It's deep. Let's just say many levels of depth and succession levels to heaven. 7 is a popular number. 12 is a popular number. It depends on which way we wish to categorize it. But there are very many dimensions and places to understand. So if you're someone who, like myself, is searching for higher truth, trying to find reality, trying to find what the sages of the past meant, the various important mystical works, not even just the religious works or the thoughts written down, but the underlying messages, the things that were related to us and relayed to us and handed down from those who knew and wanted to help, even as we can find ourselves now in the same position, trying to find things and then to help others. So, in particular, I'm doing this for a friend who made a request, my dear brother in the UK. I love you much, my friend. And this is common to all. It's not something that anyone needs to be shy or embarrassed about. I've had to literally wrestle with demons and have struggles and issues, but I've also had encounters with angelic and all that stuff, and some of you have had this too. So you know, and especially and in particular when you've had it yourself, you know that when someone else says it, there's a good chance that they are telling the truth, rather than someone just blurting something. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But when we have similarities, because we are all common, then that's how we can verify things. That's how, even if we read a book that's thousands of years old, but the patterns are there, everything seems the same, the experiences are the same, then we say, well, that's very good, even as then, even as now, and even in the future, because they're common. So even if we think about planet to planet, I knew I drew them all yellow just to represent the unity. So I didn't want to put here's Mercury, Venus, Mars, so on, Earth, so on and so forth. I wanted to put I got that backward. Earth, Mars, so on and so forth. What I wanted to do was just illustrate the unity of it. Now, even as the planets exist and each planet has the influence, the 7 major planets. See, we live in a 7-day week, and each day the week is dedicated to a planet, and that's very true actually. And same thing with the major 7 chakras. Now there are more planets, and there can be more chakras, but these are the main centers of influence for ourselves in this particular neck of the woods in the universe. So there's influential things going on that affect what is inside is exactly mirrored on the outside. And that's how we can really understand the beauty of astrology mixed with astronomy. And really they are the same one and the same thing. Although those who are very much, some astronomers may disregard astrology, but pretty much anyone who's into astrology can respect many aspects of astronomy. You gotta be open-minded about these things. And these things were told to us for a long time ago. So the reason I said that is because we talk about blessings and curses. We want to understand the sources of these things. We want to understand why we experience it. We want to understand what is accentuating things. For example, even the sun and the moon, right? For the sun and the moon, they are differently influencing and having power over our lives. The sun, without it, life on this planet is dead. And the moon, representing different cycles, the tide, menstrual cycles for women, going into modes of passion and romance and going out of them and different things like this. So there's the constancy of the sun, and then there's the changes, and each planet has different aspects and different ways in which they change. But they relate to us, they relate to being. They're not dead, immaterial things that have no meaning or no soul, as it were. Each planet has its own soul, if you want to say it like that. Life is life relating to life. So we are a sum total product of all of these influences and factors. So now to get to the meat of it, if we are dealing with negative emotions, many bad circumstances happening to us in our lives, and I can say it in humility and in truth because I've been there myself. Having had lots of hard times in and out of poverty, and a lot of it was self-chosen and accepted. As a matter of fact, we choose what happens to us before we're born. We have an agreement. There's karma involved, yes, but there's life lessons that we need and choose to undergo and wish to undergo for our development. So there's varying factors, and then when everything's right, we choose time and date, choose parents, and blammo, there we go. And it's for our betterment. Even the bad things that happen to us, they can be for our betterment because we can learn a lot from these things. However, sometimes, if and when the thought is coming to us, I want to get out of these negative things, I want to rise out of these struggles and troubles. Now that we have the thought, and we're asking the question why they're there, oh, did someone put a curse on me, what's going on? And that's real stuff too, we'll get into that. But it is up to us to be able to overcome these things. We have the power in which to do so. The material science, the ways of the world and the functions, it's past due for it to change. The old dragon, so to say, is turning over. The joke's on it, so to speak. Ouroboros is eating his own tail, and we have to do it like this. So really, the old ways are coming to an end, and by exhausting materialism, this is just maybe a subtopic, but by exhausting materialism, we're going to go back to the spirit. And even that pattern has been around here before, and it's not uncommon in the universe. So when we know that, when we have a sense of that and a sight of that and an understanding of that in the heart, then it becomes easier to cope with things, and then the ability to rise ourselves becomes a lot easier. Now, the problem with the world now is we're in such a microwave culture, online tickety-talk, fast tickety-talk cell phone reality or something like that, meaning to say we want fast, we want the easy way, the next thing. But by doing that, we are expecting the external world to fix our internal, and that cannot always be like that. Hence you have the chakra systems rising secession back to the knowledge of the universe, rather than when we're living and staying in fear, staying in the negative factors of sex, for an example, such as lust, or perversions, or different, or selfishness of, I'll look after me, myself, and my stomach, but not somebody else, right? Like the lower chakras are about survival for your earth incarnation. It's not to say the earth is bad, it's not to say incarnating here is bad, it's not. It's very good. The earth is a holy place that we can enjoy. But it's to say the desires, the drives, the things that can lead to problems and have led, look at history up until now, based upon a lack of higher awareness and a lack of a really strong heart. You could say, the crown chakras and stuff are strong, but the heart is a very important one of all. To have the appreciation. Now, when the mind and the heart, of course, become one, and in some languages, you don't even have a difference for the two words, mind and heart. In the mystical languages, they're the same thing, because it's feeling consciousness, consciousness feeling. You are is being kind of thing. So that is reflective of that. Now, if we're talking about curses, let's just say you have the planetary influences, like you have the aggression of the planet Mars or something like this. And martial, that's where the word comes from, martial law, military. These are based on Mars, and these have an influence on the planet, sure, but it depends on to what level, of course, also that we are going to agree with the influences or not. Even as we have it in the Judeo-Christian Bible tradition, Paul talking about at war with powers and principalities, because we're trying to overcome these things to find the big enlightenment, to find the source of God. But we can only get there when we're ready for it. So it's about overcoming it. Now, we're talking about, you have light and dark itself, so anything bad happening to us is not a blessing, unless it's a blessing in disguise, to help us. But anything bad is bad, negative is negative, and positive is positive. Although, yes, like we just said, sometimes you have a bad thing happen for the benefit, because the universe does work like that. It works, picture, if you will, like a yin-yang. Okay, everybody knows the yin-yang, famous, wonderful thing, and turning, and it's turning in a circle. And the universe sort of works like that. Or the Ouroboros dragon swallowing its own tail. The universe kind of works like that. So, light and dark itself, anything bad happening, negativity itself. But then you have, now there's the influence of this planet or that planet. Often it is said Saturn is the one that shakes things up, ruffles the feathers. Jupiter has its powers. They all do. Venus has the lovely powers. And maybe there's pros and cons to all of it, So it kind of works like this. But then on a more microcosmic level, then you're having the experience of this place, and then we're seeing good and bad life experiences. We're having those who are linking with the light and balance and trying to subdue and overcome fear and their own negativities. Then you have those who are thriving in the negativities because they find that it's giving them power, but it's a temporary thing. It doesn't last like that. So someone who's, for example, linked very much with the dark, shadow people or demonic entities, they're very real, and I've dealt with them, and some of you have dealt with it. They're extremely real. The world doesn't see it. Oh, science hasn't proven it. Yeah, actually, science has proven it. Soul science proved it a long time ago, actual experiences. But now, even nowadays, even on camera, you have a lot of legitimate, not all of them are true, but you have a lot of legitimate recordings and capturings of entities, both good, bad, and the ugly, or the in-between kind of thing. So it's all very real. And it's a matter of what are we going to do to deal with it? What are we going to do to overcome it? Or is it happening to us for a reason? Yes. Is it leaving us for a reason? Well, yes. Now, traditionally, you had in many cultures, today we think we're past it with our so-called material triumphs, but there's no different than it was from years ago, is that you have those who are capable of joining and linking with darkness to do devious things, to put a literal curse or a hex on someone. They can send minor entities or conjoined entities to go and bother somebody and give a problem, but they can be overcome and they will be overcome. And for many of us, we've dealt with that. So it's very true. To reverse these things, it is very simple. We can make a long contextual, phrase by phrase, clause by clause category of it. We can make all sorts of syntax. We can all sorts of things like this, but it's really, we don't need to do this. It's this basic thing. The more a person is vibrating in love, in wisdom, in overcoming fear and not returning fear for fear, and not returning aggression for aggression, the more that we can do this. It's not about being a wimp or copping out or not standing up to it, but it's about standing up to it with heart and standing up to it with understanding why. And then when we can do that, my friends, we have extremely good power. That's why Jesus in the Bible, for an example, in the mystical writings, we understand it very well. Not just as a religion that people are trying to talk about, because they don't understand the depth, but the real mystical truth of it. The real mystical truth of Buddha, for that example, which we'll get to maybe in a minute or so, we'll see. But the Christ was saying against the darkness that in me, inside me, in my being, you have nothing. The fear has been subdued. The aggression, the jealousy, all these things has been overcome. Similarly with Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, overcoming all the negative things, and by that being the Prince of Peace, just like Jesus Christ, because of the fact of now my negativities have been conquered. I myself alone am the only one who can do it. You yourself are the only one that is able to do it. You make the call. You alone make the call. And when we do that, we struggle with ourselves. We are fighting the influences, but the will is there for us to do so, and we are capable, and the heart is there. And when we're able to do so, you see, because some people can believe it or not, most people that are watching this probably will believe it, but I had a few shadowy demonic attacks against me at some period here and there, and I was able to throw them away with heart power. And the last time they tried this was maybe a couple years ago, and there was a tall, dark entity in my room, and I just stood up to it, put my bare chest and walked towards it with my love, and then it backed away and vanished. And that's the last time. But before that, it had been quite some time since I had an encounter, at least one that I was aware of, I was able to have a palpable experience with. So, saying that, when we're strong here, and when we're strong here, guess what? We are powerfully linked. We are unified with all things, rather than this planet has more influence than that one, this and that. We've accepted them all, we've come to terms with them all, we've joined them all with the light of the sun, so to say, and for a manner of speaking, and maybe even literally in some cases. Then we are vibrating, and now we have God consciousness or God power, or at least the beginning of it, right? The beginning of our or the furthering, the next step up, the next level of soul evolution for ourselves on our particular journey. And this gives us the mind to understand everything. So the Christ mind, the Buddha mind, whatever we want to call it, different names, different styles, but with that, we are everywhere at once, because we're connected by these things. These things go beyond, I know I did a symbol picture, but picture lines going that way and that way and that way, and connecting everything. The great holy ley lines, if you will, I don't even know what to call it, the power lines, the vibration, the love itself. You know, it's even hard to picture or even see. It doesn't even have to look like anything. But for example, that's it. Now, just for a side note, people often talk about when you die going through a tunnel of light. It's true. Mystics from Egypt, from Siberia, from China, Iran, Persia, anywhere and everywhere in the world, both in the past and right now, will tell you the truth that when you die, you travel down a tunnel of light. Now, why is that? Because you're going somewhere. Those who are very much linked with the love and the light will go, it's kind of like, like a telephone wire, just for a crude example, and traveling down it, and then ending up at the destination. So depending on your level of being, your level of acceptance, you can be surprised where you end up. You kind of go where you want to. And if someone is, I'm not ready for heaven, and I have anger, and I love the devil powers, and I like being the rebel, then they're going to go to a place where that is available to them. It's putting yourself in a prison, but that's what you wanted yourself. So even that, and that can be a planet like this, as beautiful as the Earth is, that can be a thing as well. But people that desire better things can have all sorts of amazing things. Even Buddha was talking about having a spontaneous birth in a heavenly planet to finish your enlightenment. And meaning, what he meant by spontaneous was, at that level, any planet that is of that vibration is good enough for you to do it. It doesn't have to be here or there. Anything, it's of a similar theme, a similar vibe, a similar way, because it's connecting with yourself. And again, the kingdom of heaven is not a place. There can be many kingdoms of heaven, but it's a level of being first. It's an isness, and when that's understood and when we join with it, then we get that Christ mind, or that Buddha level, or something like that, however we want to say it. And this is available. So that's how you bring the blessings in, and that's how you remove the curses, is by simply joining yourself with positivity and with understanding as to why negative things happen. To realize that the universe has to have both, or there's stagnancy. It has to have, for lack of a better term, ordered chaos, or there's nothing to do. So we have perfection. We are already perfect beings who chose to have an imperfect experience, to have an individual ego, and to go on a long billion year trip, or however long. Some people are shorter, some faster, depending on what we like at the time and where we're going. But it loops back. It's the famous infinity horizontal figure 8, if you will. That's also a wonderful symbol. And this is the truth, my friends. And really deep down, you know it. And that truth doesn't have to be forced or threatened with hellfire, nothing. A person who knows that, sits calmly, realizes that it's true, says it, others will accept it or not. But that person is completely 1,000% confident and resolute. No one can shake their faith, because now it's no longer faith, it's direct perceived knowledge, and will always be gentle about talking to others. There's no conversion, it's just reminders. And whoever's ready to remember will, and whoever's not, well, they won't, and they will do so in their own time. And this is the mystical truth of things. So that's how you remove curses, vibrating in love and wisdom. And we have millions of things to do, and we have already done millions of things, and we will continue to do millions of things. Some of the speech, and I'm not the first one to say anything that I just said. My video, however long or short it is, it's nothing. It's all been said before. I'm just another person taking a torch, blabbing for a bit, and passing it on. Some of you, I want you to get higher than me. Go for it. The sky's the limit, and bring this thing through. Because when this is realized calmly and by default, naturally, for each one in and of their own time and self, then it's fantastic. It is. It's the mind-blowing memory of is and now and all. And that's a wonderful thing. Even one of the most beautiful names for God was, I'm going to take it from the Aramaic, which was the language that Jesus spoke. He didn't speak Hebrew as such. It was actually Aramaic, which was popular at the time. And the name for the God was Allah. Not Allah like the Arabs, but that's I guess that's a cool name too, Allah. I'm not a Muslim in the way that those people are, but anyways, I love everybody, doesn't matter. Everyone is where they're at. But yeah, Allah. But Allah meaning all, the all in all. I am, right? You have the Yahweh, you have the Allah. So that's what we are. There's my message. I could say a lot more, but I want to keep the video short because I know people can get tired of someone blah blah blahing for a time and a time. But there you go. I wish you the best in your development, and if at all that helped anyone, I'm honored. And if not, well, I'm sorry. Maybe you'll find the answer you need somewhere else. Bon. Merci beaucoup, and take care. Okay, bye.